Ida was a shadow in the bustling corridors of the university, a whisper lost in the cacophony of student life. Her classmates knew her as the quiet girl, always lost in a book, her eyes downcast. They mistook her silence for shyness, her introversion for timidity. They had no idea the storm raging within her. Her dorm room was her sanctuary, a small bare space dominated by a large window overlooking the campus grounds. It was here that the silence began to take on a different quality. It was no longer peaceful, it was heavy, oppressive, as if the air itself held its breath, waiting for something to break. The whispers followed her everywhere. In the library, amidst the rustle of turning pages, she would hear her name, faintly at first, then growing louder, more insistent. It was like a worm burrowing into her brain, driving her to the edge of sanity. In the crowded cafeteria, she would jerk her head up from her food, convinced she had heard someone call her, only to find herself staring at strangers. Back in her dorm room, the whispers seemed to intensify, becoming more menacing. They were no longer disembodied murmurs, they were taking on a voice, a personality, a cold, mocking voice that seemed to know her deepest fears, her darkest secrets. Her sanctuary had become her prison, the silence now a constant torment. One morning she woke to find 3 long, deep scratches etched into the wall above her bed. They were too high to have been made accidentally, too deliberate to be the work of an animal. The scratches were like the claws of some unseen beast had raked across the surface, leaving a chilling message behind. Fear clawed at Ida's throat, threatening to consume her. This was no longer something she could ignore. This was real, tangible evidence that she was not imagining things. Someone or something was intruding into her life, her space, her sanity, and she was all alone in this nightmare. Desperate for answers, Ida confided in her roommate, Maya. Maya, a bubbly extrovert, initially dismissed Ida's concerns as exam stress. But as Ida recounted the whispers, the scratches, the growing sense of dread that permeated her every waking moment, Maya's skepticism gave way to concern. Together, they scoured the internet for any mention of similar occurrences, any folklore or urban legend that could shed light on Ida's experiences. They found stories of haunted dorms, malevolent spirits and psychological breakdowns. Each tale, more unsettling than the last, only served to deepen the mystery and heighten Ida's fear. They even ventured into the university archives, hoping to find some record of past incidents in Ida's dorm room. The musty smell of old paper and the hushed atmosphere did little to calm Ida's nerves. Hours were spent poring over dusty files, but their search yielded nothing but dead ends and frustration. As days turned into sleepless nights, Ida's grip on reality began to slip. The whispers were relentless. The scratches, a constant reminder of the unseen force that seemed to be closing in on her. She knew she needed help, professional help, and so, with a mix of trepidation and desperate hope, she decided to seek out a therapist. The therapist's office was a stark contrast to the sterile environment of the university clinic. It was warm and inviting, filled with soft lighting and the scent of lavender. Dr. Lewis, a woman with kind eyes and a calming demeanor, listened patiently as Ada, in a voice barely above a whisper, recounted her experiences. Dr. Lewis explored every avenue, ruling out any possible medical or environmental factors that could be contributing to Ida's state. Sleep deprivation, anxiety, even early signs of psychosis were all considered. Yet something didn't sit right. Ida's terror was too palpable, her experiences too vivid to be easily dismissed. As the sessions progressed, Dr. Lewis began to delve into Ida's past, searching for any repressed trauma, any childhood event that might be manifesting itself in these unsettling ways. Ida, hesitant at first, began to open up, revealing fragments of memories, glimpses of a childhood shrouded in a haze of fear and uncertainty. There were whispers in Ida's past too, whispers of a family secret, a tragic accident, a name that was never to be spoken. But the memories were fragmented. like pieces of a shattered mirror, reflecting only distorted images of the past. The more Ida tried to grasp them, the more they seemed to slip away, leaving her with a growing sense of unease and a chilling certainty that something terrible was lurking just beneath the surface of her consciousness. Section 5. Fragments of Memory. The whispers intensified, now laced with a chilling familiarity. They seemed to be drawing Ida back to a time and place she couldn't quite grasp. Flashes of memory, vivid and terrifying, began to intrude upon her waking hours. She saw a forest, dark and oppressive, the air thick with the smell of damp earth and pine needles. She saw herself, a small child, running, her breath catching in her throat, her small legs pumping furiously beneath her. She was running from something terrifying, but the memory always stopped short of revealing what it was. The scratches on the wall began to take on a new meaning. They were not random acts of vandalism. They were forming a pattern, a crude symbol that sparked a flicker of recognition in the recesses of Ida's mind. The symbol was vaguely familiar, haunting her dreams, appearing on the edges of her vision, a constant, unsettling presence. Ida became obsessed with deciphering the symbol, spending hours in the library, poring over ancient texts, mythology books, anything that might offer a clue to its meaning. Her research led her down a rabbit hole of ancient lore, tales of forgotten deities and rituals performed under the light of a blood moon. The more she learned, the more convinced she became that the whispers, the scratches, the terrifying fragments of memory were all connected to something ancient and evil. And Dr. Lewis urged caution, concerned that Ida's obsession with the symbol was pushing her further down a dangerous path, but Ida couldn't stop. She was like a woman possessed, driven by a force she couldn't understand or control. The whispers were relentless, pulling at her sanity, urging her deeper into the labyrinth of her own mind. Her dorm room, once a sanctuary, became a prison of her own making. The walls seemed to close in on her, the air thick with unseen menace. The whispers were no longer confined to the shadows. They were everywhere, surrounding her, taunting her, driving her to the brink of madness. She stopped attending classes, her studies falling by the wayside. Sleep became a distant memory, replaced by a constant state of hypervigilance. Her once bright eyes were now dull with exhaustion and fear, her skin pale and drawn. The whispers had taken their toll, stripping away the layers of her sanity, exposing the raw fear that lay beneath. One night, as the storm raged outside, mirroring the turmoil within her, Ida reached her breaking point. The whispers reached a fever pitch, a chorus of voices chanting her name, mocking her fear. The symbol on the wall pulsed with an eerie light, beckoning her closer. Her room, her sanctuary, had become a battleground for her sanity. Drawn by an unseen force, Ida approached the wall. The air grew heavy, charged with static electricity. The whispers seemed to emanate from the symbol itself, pulling her closer, urging her to reach out and touch it. As her fingers brushed against the rough surface, a jolt of energy surged through her body, throwing her backwards onto the floor. When Ida opened her eyes, the room was gone. She was no longer in her dorm room, but standing in the middle of a dense, dark forest. The air was heavy with the smell of damp earth and decay. The wind howled through the trees, twisting the branches into grotesque shapes. And then she saw it, a shadowy figure standing at the edge of the trees. It was tall and slender, its form shifting and swirling like smoke in the moonlight. It didn't move, yet Ida could feel its eyes fixed on her, burning into her soul. Terror rooted her to the spot, her breath caught in her throat. She wanted to scream, to run, but her body refused to obey. The figure took a step towards her, and a voice, cold and ancient, echoed through the forest. It was the voice of the whispers, the voice that had haunted her for so long. It spoke her name, and as it did, a dam broke within Ida's mind. Memories, long suppressed, flooded back, washing over her with the force of a tidal wave. The forest, the whispers, the symbol, it all came rushing back to her. She remembered that day, the day her childhood ended. She had been playing in the woods with her older sister when they stumbled upon a clearing. In the center stood an ancient stone circle, much like the symbol etched on her dorm room wall. Her sister, always the adventurous one, had dared her to enter the circle. Ida, hesitant at first, had eventually relented. As she stepped within the ring of stones, a cold wind had swept through the clearing and the whispers had begun, the same whispers that had haunted her ever since. Her sister had laughed, but the sound had died in her throat as the shadows from the surrounding trees seemed to reach out, twisting and swirling, coalescing into a single terrifying figure, the figure from Ada's nightmares. It had spoken then, its voice a chilling whisper, and reached for her sister. Ida had screamed, a primal scream of terror that had echoed through the forest. She had turned and run, her mind shutting down, blocking out the memory of what had happened next. But now, standing in the heart of her nightmare, the truth could no longer be denied. The whispers, the scratches, the shadowy figure, they were not figments of her imagination. They were fragments of a memory, a buried trauma that had resurfaced, threatening to shatter her sanity. And the figure standing before her, the source of her terror, was not a figment of her imagination. It was real, and it had come for her. Ada woke up in her dorm room, her body bathed in sweat, her heart pounding against her ribs. The storm had passed, leaving behind a silence that was more unnerving than any storm. The scratches on the wall seemed to throb faintly, a malevolent heartbeat in the stillness. She knew then that she could never outrun the truth. The whispers were not external, they were the echoes of her own fractured mind, a constant reminder of the trauma she had buried deep within. The shadowy figure was a manifestation of her guilt, her fear, her inability to save her sister. Life went on around her, a blur of faces and voices that she could no longer connect with. She was trapped in her own personal hell, the whispers her constant companions. The line between reality and nightmare blurred, the boundary between sanity and madness thin and fragile. The fading whispers had become a deafening roar, a symphony of her own making. And she knew with a chilling certainty that they would never be silenced. Ada was left to wander the halls of her own mind, haunted by the ghosts of her past, a prisoner in her own unquiet mind. The whispers were her jailers, the shadowy figure her constant companion, and she knew with a sinking heart that there would be no escape.